All right, so what exactly happened at the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fiasco last night? What happened was several things, but the main thing is that there was no boxing match. This was a pre-planned, predetermined event, which basically said that they're not going to beat the shit out of each other, and whenever one guy happens to land a good punch, they're going to hold back, and they're going to prolong it, and it's going to go to a decision, and it was absolutely farcical. This is what you call a farce. This is what you call a money grab. You know, this phrase money grab has been thrown around for years for people like, you know, Conor McGregor and a few other people like Floyd Mayweather. And I don't like Conor McGregor as a human being. I've said this many times. At least Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor fought each other. And when they fought each other, they were trying to hurt each other. They really wanted to win. And you could tell that they wanted to win. I give Conor McGregor credit because he's the one that got Jake Paul interested in boxing. Because before he did it, no one was doing it. And he crossed over and he said, fuck it, let me give it a try. And he actually did extremely well in that first round. He landed the uppercut. And it was a legitimate boxing match. It was legitimate. Now, obviously, Floyd Mayweather, he held back a little bit. Simultaneously, it was very dangerous for Floyd to even step in the ring with a guy like Conor, who's completely nuts. And when they actually had the boxing event, the event itself was promoted correctly. Dana White was involved. You have Mayweather Promotions. It was extremely fun to watch the lead up to the event. All of the press conferences were organized. They were fun, huge crowds, big cities. And when it got to the event, they delivered on the promise of a real boxing match between two giants in their individual fight games. All right, Conor McGregor, king of MMA versus, you know, the king of boxing at the time, Floyd Mayweather. And I mean, it was legit. It was fun. And it was fun to watch these guys go at it. And I wanted to see a second fight. I don't know why that didn't happen. Maybe there wasn't enough money. Maybe Conor said, fuck it, I'm never going to do this again. Maybe Floyd was like, nah, you know, whatever, I got my money and I'm good. I don't know. I don't know what the situation was there. But that made me want to watch Conor versus Floyd again. I didn't want to watch Jake Paul fight people. And I cringed when I saw that someone actually said yes. I couldn't believe that Ben Askren actually said yes to Jake Paul, and he thought he was just going to go in there and just win based on luck, like a fucking prayer to God or some shit. It was terrible to watch. I hated it, and I was like, what the hell am I doing here watching this shit? And the only other one that I watched after that was Tommy Fury, and I will admit that I did watch the replay of Nate Diaz because I'm a huge Nate Diaz fan, and Nate did pretty good, but I didn't watch any of the other ones live. I watched some of the highlights, but after I watched those two matches, I said, okay, well, Tommy Fury is a legitimate boxer, and he legitimately beat Jake Paul. He beat him in boxing skill. Jake Paul never went after another boxer on that caliber again. He had a few handpicked guys that he knew he was going to beat, which is, you know, that's what Jake Paul does, right? He picks old men to fight, like he did last night, which I'm going to get into, obviously, Mike Tyson. And, you know, he handpicks guys that he knows he has a chance against. Whereas Conor McGregor put himself on the line for severe CTE, severe brain trauma. Like, he could have been massively hurt in that fight against Mayweather. Thankfully, Mayweather held back and he unleashed on him. What was it, like round 8, 9, whatever it was? And I mean, he legitimately was trying to knock him out. It's a good thing that rep stepped in when Conor was still standing on his feet, because Conor would have been permanently fucked up. I don't know. Maybe that's why he hasn't won a lot of fights since then in MMA. I mean, what? He beat Cowboy Cerrone and that's it. I mean, he's looked like shit ever since. Dustin beat him twice. So maybe that did play a role. Maybe that did throw him off. Maybe that is why he's acting like a maniac, thinking he wants to fight Chandler and doesn't. You know, he's on steroids. He's not on steroids. He hates USADA and like he gets USADA out of there, but whatever. I digress. The main thing is that was a legitimate boxing event put on by two legitimate great people. And then you got Jake Paul with a fucking money grab. And the fact that Ben Askren went in there, that motivated a guy like Tyron Woodley, former UFC champion, to go and also think that he's going to go fight Jake Paul on like, I mean, not being able to use all of his skills. Then he does it a second time. Why? For money. And then all these other guys. I mean, Anderson Silva, are you kidding me? Like, it was just, no one that Jake Paul called out was anyone that was close to his age. He got challenged by a lot of people. He just ignored all of them. And, you know, him challenging Alex Pereira, that's full of shit. Jake Paul has always mentioned everyone. He even mentioned Conor McGregor. He mentions everyone. And whoever was dumb enough to fucking respond basically gets hooked up. They get hooked up with a couple of millions, you know? However he's getting his millions, through investors, or I don't know, maybe he blows men on the side and he gets this shit. I have no idea. But he's paying these guys a lot of money. And then, you know, I just can't believe that people actually said yes to fight him in the UFC. I'm like, guys, what are you doing? And then we get to Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. And let me go down the list of all the things that went wrong with this fucking thing. Number one, Mike Tyson, 58 years old versus a 27-year-old Jake Paul. That's already like what the fuck was going to happen here, right? To his credit, Mike Tyson actually looked pretty good, like I predicted, for the first 30 seconds. And after that, it was downhill from there. He looked like he was holding his punches back after that 30 seconds. I don't know if he realized that he had a chance to win or whatever it was, but he's walking into jabs. Now, Jake Paul wasn't throwing jabs in his other fight. He was trying to knock down and knock out Tommy Fury with these huge roundhouse haymaker and shits, right? And it's not that he's gotten better. It's not that he's gotten more tamed. It's that he was holding back. And then you have Tyson, who was, moving like the old, the old Tyson was moving like the younger Tyson. So he was fighting like the old Tyson that we all know. And he looked like he had the speed, but for some reason, he just couldn't measure the distance. Like he just couldn't get close enough to Jake Paul. And it has nothing to do with Jake Paul's speed. He just wasn't pushing forward enough. And every time he did push forward, it was like he was signaling, hey, Jake, watch this. I'm actually going to try to do my like classic jump forward uppercut thing. And it's just Jake Paul moved out of the way. And again, every time he did connect, it was like Jake Paul was like, oh shit, I didn't mean to do that. Let me pull back a little bit. And every time Tyson connected, he's like, all right, well, whatever. I got my couple of shots in for this round, so let me just, back off. And it was terrible. Like it was just an absolute terrible fight. So again, number one, the 58-year-old thing. Number two, the fact that it wasn't a real fight. And number three, and this is the most important of this discussion about this fiasco, this farce known as Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fucking boxing. The promotion, the coordination, the lack of organization, and the just disregard for other boxers at this event was atrocious. There was no promotion for this fight. And Netflix couldn't even... okay, so like Netflix always throws out these crazy numbers, right? Oh, we had 5 million people watching last night. Or we had 10 million people watch this show. And that's how they lie about getting people to sign up. It's like, oh, we have 20 million subscribers or however many subscribers they have. I really don't know. I'm just throwing that number out there. You guys can go fucking fact check whatever the fuck that means. I digress. You got Netflix claiming that they're getting millions of views. Now, they weren't getting millions of views to watch this boxing event. Maybe, and what I mean is they weren't getting the same amount of views that they would normally get for a television show that premieres. Like let's say Stranger Things or something like that, right? Or let's say some other major event. And they couldn't handle the load on their servers to the point where first the sound cut out. Why? Because as more people tuned in, because they got closer to the main event, because no one cared about the undercard at all, then all of a sudden the sound issues started. Then you had what's called the buffering issues, right? Where like you get that lie that says 99%. By the way, whenever you see the 99%, isn't it funny how it goes really fast to the 99 and it just sits there? Because it's lying to you about the 99%. All right. It's nowhere near close to fucking 99%. It just doesn't want you to turn the fucking TV off and get off of Netflix. But so the server couldn't even handle people watching the co-main event. And during the Tyson fight, it would freeze and they would show other video. So like that tells me a few things. Number one, it wasn't just a server load issue. It was a streaming issue from, the live event because they were actually showing replacement video. So it wasn't just, the fact that it was rebuffering because it couldn't handle the servers, but they couldn't even broadcast live from Texas. It was absolutely terrible. I think they were in Texas, right? Who knows? Who cares? Getting back to the whole lack of promotion thing. Do you guys realize how important that co-main event was to female boxing? And you may say, oh yeah, female boxing, you told me shit. Out of all the female events that the like men also compete in, right? This includes the UFC. Boxing has two legitimate warriors in Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor. And Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano had a legitimate fucking war to the point where Amanda Serrano had her eye cut open and she kept fighting because of an accidental headbutt, and then it happened again. And they were beating the living shit out of each other. And both of them have shins and both of them are warriors. That was a legitimate, fun boxing match to watch. I watched that. And then I shut it off when I saw that Mike Tyson was coming out because I didn't want to watch this shit. I watched it afterwards. But during the fight that I'm watching it, it's like, okay, the sound is breaking up and then you get the little bullshit glitching happening and then the rebuffering and then the loading and then here, watch this other video while we try to figure this shit out. Completely disorganized. And let's not even talk about the announcers. I'm talking about the announcers between the fights. I'm not talking about Ronaldo, who was like the guy who was talking like this. I'm not even going to do his fucking impersonation because I actually feel bad for the guy. I think he's a little bit touched, if you know what I mean. I digress. But yeah, whatever. He's like Moro, something like that. He's a really great announcer. He was in MMA for a long time. Him and Bas Rutten were two of the greats when it came to Japanese stuff and Pride and back in the MMA days. But I double digress. Getting back to the announcers, I'm actually talking about the commentators between matches. I don't know who they picked. Like, okay, a couple of boxing superstars who, I mean, clearly they have some head issues, they have mind issues, CTE, if you will, Joe Rogan, and they just couldn't put together sentences without it being a fucking run-on. There's no complete thoughts. They actually sound like Kamala Harris trying to fucking debate. And then you get this, you get a couple of these females. I mean, they're nice to look at, but they're saying stupid shit like, oh, you won't believe how great it is. Stay tuned. Telling me to stay tuned. I'm already here. You don't have to sell me the fight. You should be talking about the fight. You should be giving me details about the last fight. You should be talking about the people that are coming up. Don't look at the fucking camera when there's another fight coming up that isn't Mike Tyson and Jake Paul and say, please stay. It's going to be an amazing fight. Wait until you see these two. No, tell me why I should stay. I'm already fucking here. Deliver on your promise of a great boxing event. And then during the fucking, even the Katie Taylor fight, I got to look at all these idiots sitting in the front row, acting like morons, just yelling and screaming. And then you get some other people just sitting there like laughing because they don't know what the fuck they're looking at. They probably never been to a boxing match in their life. And then like, it's just, it was so disorganized and sloppy. It was pathetic to watch. And Nate Diaz even said after he fought Jake Paul, because he said he was never going to come back to the UFC after he retired, right? Watch the interviews that he gave after he fought Jake Paul. He's like, man, now I know what Dana White was talking about. These other guys are like below the UFC and whatnot because at least Dana White puts me in the right spot. And I think I'm going to go back and fight a couple more times because I do love the UFC and whatnot. And, maybe my brother come back and fight with me or whatever. I'm not like fight with me. You know what I mean? Come on, Ariel. He was like, this shit is so disorganized. Now he even said, I have a new appreciation for and respect for Dana White and what he does and how he promotes and how organized he is and how he treats the fighters. You have not heard anyone yet compliment Jake Paul on how he treats the fighters. Like zero. All they say is, yeah, it was like great to be a part of this event. Why? Because they got paid a couple million. So he just like, he doesn't care about taking care of you guys after he pays you $1 million. He's just like, whatever, you're fucking here. I mean, during the press conference with Nate Diaz and Jake Paul, Nate came out and said during the press conference, during one of their many press conferences, he said, yeah, this guy's not even promoting this shit right. I mean, I got people asking me what the hell the fight is because they don't know when it is. You know what I mean? And then, of course, Jake Paul, like an idiot, goes, well, you're also a co-promoter. It says promotion. Yeah, dumbass. Do you know what promotion means? It means Nate Diaz is promoting Nate Diaz to fight you on an event that you sanctioned. So it is not up to Nate Diaz to promote the event. It is up to Nate Diaz to promote himself, which is specifically and precisely why he's at the press conference, moron. So Jake Paul doesn't even understand the normal vernacular for promotion speak. And I don't think a lot of you guys do either, because you keep calling the UFC a promotion. The UFC is not a promotion. It is a fighting league. If it was a promotion, that would mean that the UFC versus the PFL would happen. But you see, the PFL, it is a league, right? Bellator, which basically merged with PFL, is a fighting league. It is an intramural fighting league where they only fight people in their organization. Oh, Bellator fought the PFL. Right, idiot, because they were merging and now they are fully merged. So technically it's one camp. You don't have the WWE versus whatever organization is out there now competing against them. That's just not going to happen. It won't happen. I mean, Vince McMahon would not allow it. The UFC is not a promotion. It is a intramural fighting league. Stop calling Dana White a promoter. He is not a promoter. He is the president of the UFC and he does a great job of promoting the UFC. So in that regard, he's a good promoter for the UFC, but the UFC itself is not a promotion. When you hear the word like Jake Paul Promotions or Nate, whatever, he calls himself most valuable penis promotion, MVP. So when Jake Paul talks about most valuable penis promotions, he's promoting the fighters in MVP. And that's all that he's supposed to do. And when Nate Diaz promotion comes out, whatever the hell he called it, let's say it was 309 Promotions, you know what I'm saying? What's up, N-word? Because I can't say the word again. His job is to promote one person, and that's Nate Diaz. And that's precisely and accurately what he did. So he's not supposed to promote the fight between him and Jake Paul. He's just supposed to put himself out there. When Conor McGregor had his Proper 12 Promotions, or whatever the fuck it was called, when he fought Floyd Mayweather, I mean, he didn't organize all that shit. That was Floyd Mayweather. His team put all that shit together. Say, here, show up at this time. We're going to take care of you. We're going to do this. He said, okay, great. I love you, Floyd Mayweather. Mwah. And the only thing that Conor had to do was show up. So that should have been the same deal for Nate Diaz. So the reason why I bring bring all this stuff up is because this is the kind of lack of organization that I saw. Zero promotion for this event. Netflix spent no money promoting it, probably because they knew they were going to lose money because they had to pay it to fucking Jake Paul, whatever they guaranteed him, which is absolutely ridiculous. And whatever amount of money that they had to be forced to fight fucking Mike Tyson, to pay Mike Tyson to fight. And, you got Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, who I'm sure made nowhere, probably a fraction of what Tyson made and Jake Paul. And they actually deserve to be the main card because they were true boxing. But again, you're from my generation, you want to see Mike Tyson. You're from the Dick Talk generation, you want to see Jake Paul. And what I saw was not a boxing match. That was not boxing. That was dancing. It was terrible. And I'm not blaming Mike Tyson. He's 58. I'm blaming Jake Paul. I'm blaming Jake Paul for doing this stupid incentivizing and saying, well, if Mike Tyson, for every round that Mike Tyson lasts, he gets another $1 million or whatever the fucking stipulation was in the contract. Absolutely ridiculous. So obviously Mike is going to hold back. And that also protected Jake Paul from getting any real shots happening to him. And the crowd was booing, something that they don't report. And no one was happy with, the fucking decision because it wasn't a real fight anyway. So who cares? And Mike Tyson didn't even talk at the post-fight press conference. It's not because he was so beat up that he couldn't. It's just because, again, Jake Paul doesn't know how to organize this shit. And in the post-fight press conference, Jerk Paul says, I'm just playing the heel. Dude, you're not playing the fucking heel. You are a real life asshole being yourself. That's not playing the heel. Playing the heel means a guy that normally would not be a bad guy, like let's say Hulk Hogan back in the 80s, who was a fucking good guy. And then, he joined the NWO and he became a bad guy. That's playing the heel. You're not playing the heel, dumbass. You are the fucking heel. You are legitimately an asshole. It would be unique if you changed your fucking persona and started to not be one, but you can't do that because in real life, you are a crazy, stupid motherfucker. And so therefore, you don't play one on TV, you play one in reality. But I digress. He did give Mike Tyson a lot of money, and that I will applaud him for, or, whatever that guy's name is, Nikisa, who used to work for the UFC. Maybe he's the one who's very good at like organizing all the money to basically give to Mike Tyson, whatever the fuck it is. I hope that check doesn't bounce. So it's just like, it was just a complete fiasco. Complete fucking fiasco. It was underpromoted. It was very amateurish. Netflix can't even get their shit together. So don't believe Netflix anything ever tells you about viewership numbers. Because if anything, if they stated anything true about their viewers, I don't care if it was a live event versus streaming, they still have to stream to every individual account that is watching a TV show. And if they're, you got to think logically, people. If they're legitimately saying that they're getting 20 million people watching Stranger fucking Things, and yet maybe 1 million people was watching the fucking Netflix event last night and their servers were crashing like hell. So you really believe that they're getting 20 million people to watch these TV shows? It's all fucking lies. And it was revealed as being lies last night with the failure of Netflix. And with that, I now implore you, it is 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I don't know when I'm going to get this up. On Saturday, November 16th, 2024, UFC 309 is happening in just a few hours. I'm going to give my picks again. John Jones will beat Stipe Miocic. It will be decisive. It will be quick. It will probably be a knockout. I'm going to say it will definitely be a knockout. Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler. They're both a little bit older. They're both a little bit slower. Chandler's out of practice, but he likes to fight, and he has a good chin. And I don't think he's going to get submitted. I don't think he's going to get knocked out. I think it's going to go to a decision, and he will lose again to Charles Oliveira through decision. And Bo Nickel versus Paul Craig. This is a sleeper. Everyone thinks this is going to be a wrestling match, and it won't be because Paul Craig is jiu-jitsu, so you'll actually get to see some other skills besides wrestling. I think it's going to be a stand-up match because, do you guys see what Bo Nickel does to people? He doesn't take them down. He doesn't wrestle them. He beats them up, and he does it, with striking. And maybe, a takedown and ground and pound or some shit like that, but he's not going to submit Paul Craig. And Paul Craig is not stupid enough to go to the ground with him because he's not going to risk having to use all of his jiu-jitsu skills to try to get out of all these wrestling positions. He doesn't want to be sat on for all that time, although pulling guard is something that, Bo Nickel is not used to unless he's been training for it. And I think Paul Craig is going to teach Bo Nickel a lesson. I think he's going to beat him up a lot, and it's going to go to distance, 3 rounds? And it will be a decision victory for Bo Nickel. They will give it to Bo Nickel no matter what Paul Craig does. It is going to be 7-0 for Bo Nickel because Dana White has his favorites. And unless Bo Nickel, by some weird miracle in some alternate universe, gets knocked out by Paul Craig, which won't happen, then it will be a Bo Nickel victory. Paul Craig is so fucking underrated, and he's not going against the guy who's super experienced with striking and being comfortable in that cage, as comfortable as Paul Craig is. You will see a different Bo Nickel when he realizes, holy shit, this guy is really fucking good. He's better than all the non-wrestlers that I had to face before him. He's better than all the handpicked fucking people who showed up and didn't show up and then last minute show up. It's like, no, you are facing a guy who wants to kill you, and he's going to do his best to kill you. He won't be able to kill you. He will beat you up. He's going to fuck you up bad, but you're still going to win because you are Dana White's bitch, and he will make sure that you will get that 7-0 victory under your belt so you can fight the next guy, whoever the hell that's going to be in your division. Doesn't even matter at this point, and I feel bad for Paul Craig, but I hope that Paul Craig wins. I hope he gets a knockout or some jiu-jitsu submission. That would be a great, if like he put Bo Nickel in the triangle and he puts him to sleep, he doesn't know what the fuck to do. That would be fantastic, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think that it's going to be a stand-up fight, and I think there might be a couple of takedowns, there might be some ground and pound, and you will see Bo Nickel walk out of there scathed. Notice how I spoke the most about this fight, because this is the co-main event. This is the third event on the card. They call that the featured event. I don't know why it's featured. The featured event will be the main fucking event, but I digress. It's going to be a great fight. I'm not even going to watch the Michael Chandler, Charles Oliveira fight. It's not because I don't like Charles Oliveira. It's because I do not like Michael Chandler. He fucked everything up. And I will be watching John Jones versus Stipe, praying to God that Stipe pulls something out of his ass and becomes champion again. That would be, I mean, imagine, just like try to imagine for 1 minute that Stipe Miocic knocks out John Jones or submits him. Just like put that in your head. What that would do, not only for the UFC in terms of the heavyweight division, but what kind of possibilities do we have here? I mean, think about it. Stipe Miocic being the heavyweight champion with John Jones calling out Alex Pereira and Tom Aspinall saying that John Jones is ducking him, which, by the way, he's not ducking him. You idiots. Tom Aspinall versus John Jones is not an intriguing fight. John Jones is correct on that. He may be a sociopath. Oh, by the way, following up with that last episode that I put out with John Jones being a sociopath, he proved that he's a psychopath. He proved that he's a psychopath because he said the reason why he didn't shake Stipe Miocic's hand is because he says Stipe Miocic was talking about his kids on some podcast. No, that's not what happened. This podcast, which is hosted by this weirdo named Bear Dick and the Guy's Assio, he had on Stipe Miocic, and he asked Stipe Miocic something about some shit, and Stipe said that he doesn't want to be an asshole to his kids. And somehow John Jones's sick, demented, warped, delusional mind translated that into he's talking about me and my kids. Unless you're a psychopath, unless you are a crazy fucking person, a lunatic, how can you ever say that Stipe Miocic was talking about your kids when he clearly was stating he doesn't want to be considered an asshole to his kids? Like, where the fuck you... So Stipe puts out his hand. He doesn't shake his hand, John Jones. And then John Jones says, don't ever talk about my kids again. Stipe's like, I never spoke about your kids. And it's like, this is what you're basing it on. And then the next night at the ceremonial weigh-ins, guess what? Stipe put out his fucking hand again. Now John Jones shook his hand. If that doesn't scream to you psychopath, then you're a fucking psychopath. Because how can you first say the reason why that you don't want to shake someone's hand is because you think that he insulted your kids, then 24 hours later, you're shaking the guy's hand who you said that you would never respect because he's talking shit about your kids? You are a psychopath. John Jones is a certifiable psychopath. And I cannot wait to see UFC 309, Stipe Miocic. Please, God, if you're out there, if you're listening, send a demon from hell. No, just kidding. I'm reciting a line from Private Parts. Please, Stipe, show me that you got something planned for John Jones. Some magic shit. Oh, and how could I not mention this? Guys, go watch like practically every single John Jones fight. Every single John Jones fight. What is he known for doing besides kicking people in the fucking knees, which is legal? It's fucked up. But I mean, you know what? To me, it's really not fucked up because whatever, it's a move. It works. Use it. It's not banned. But every single one of John Jones's fight, he sticks his fingers out and he deliberately pokes everyone in the fucking face. They can't see. He fucks them up. The only person who resisted that shit was Dominic Reyes, who, when John Jones was trying to stick his fingers out, he smacked his hand out of the way, which I thought was fucking great. But other than that, I mean, I think there's even a highlight reel on fucking YouTube where you can see all of John Jones's eye pokes. So the UFC comes up with these new gloves where it's difficult for you to outstretch your fucking hands and it's easier for you to grip, easier for you to make a punch. Therefore, it's going to increase the action and the fans don't have to bitch and moan when people are taken down against the fence, right? So what does John Jones say? He calls up Dana White when they send him the new gloves. He goes, I don't know about these gloves. I can't outstretch my fingers. How am I going to grab people? So what does fucking Dana White do? Not only does he get rid of the new gloves and replace them with the old gloves where you can outstretch your fingers and actually poke people in the fucking face with like your fingers, right? It's like he's making it easier for John Jones to do this shit, which is insane. And he's doing it because of John Jones just bitching and moaning about these fucking gloves. But someone asked him during the press conference, hey, so like, is this like a temporary thing with the gloves? And he goes, no, we're bringing back the old gloves permanently because I had too many complaints of fighters. Like, Dana White is such a fucking liar. He's such a liar. I watch so many interviews with these fighters. I have not heard anyone complain the way that John Jones did about the new gloves. If anything, they said it takes a little bit of getting used to, but they like them. John Jones will now be able to poke Stipe in the fucking eyes. If it doesn't happen, it's only because the match is going to end, really, really fast. I guarantee you're going to see his fingers fucking stretched out. He's going to poke Stipe in the fucking eye, and that'll be the equalizer, which will cause Stipe to fucking lose. Unbelievable. So that's an honorable mention from the liar, Dana White, the guy who promotes that other thing called slap fighting. You haven't heard a lot about slap fighting lately, have you, right? Dana White talking all this shit about, yeah, it's so great, and, don't worry about the numbers online because I have a team of people that tell me otherwise. Yeah, okay, dude, slap fighting has failed a long time ago. You're losing money. That's why you're pivoting into not only boxing, but he just announced that he's getting into jiu-jitsu because he sees that Craig Jones got like super popular from doing that like Craig Jones Invitational, and he handed out $1 million for 2 different weight classes. So, and then Dana White, again, lies. He completely lies and says, oh, I've been working on this shit for the past year to try to get a jiu-jitsu thing going. No, you didn't. You saw how popular Craig Jones was. Now you're going to copy his model, and you're probably going to do the same thing that Craig Jones did and not have an open map. But you're going to have one of those little curve things, which Craig Jones admits, at least, that he stole from Karate Combat, Boss Ruins League. And, it's just the lies coming out of Dana White. I mean, I guess that's what makes him a great UFC fucking leader or president, whoever the fuck. He lies about everything, and people believe it, and they don't call him out, and they'll say, but wait a minute, what about this? No, they just ask him, why do you think John Jones is the greatest of all time? Who cares about that? Like, he's lying. He never brought up Mikey Musumeci, ever. Yes, they used to show events with Mikey Musumeci in it. Now he's announcing that he signed him. Why didn't he sign Gordon Ryan? Why didn't he sign Nicky Ryan, Gordon Ryan's brother? Why didn't he sign Nick Rodriguez, the guy that won $1 million? How come he's not signing the fucking Ruotolo brothers? Because Mikey Musumeci was supposed to go to the Craig Jones Invitational. He said yes to it, but then he said he couldn't do it, and now Dana White steals him from not only Craig Jones, but from one, which I thought he was on the contract with. Unbelievable. So there you go. Some honorable mentions. UFC 309 in just a few hours. John Jones will defeat Stipe Miocic, although I'm rooting for Stipe. I really want him to win. He's a great guy. Charles Oliveira will win by decision victory against Michael Chandler. And Paul Craig will beat the living shit out of Bo Nickel for 3 rounds. And yet, Bo Nickel will come out victorious because he's Dana White's boy. And if you're Dana White's boy, you're Dana White's boy. But I digress.